Made in Japan. A weeb horror story. I apologize if my English was a bit off in some sentences. Not my first language. Also, real names have been changed in this story, obviously. Most of you guys have submitted scary, cringe-worthy stories to this blog about having to deal with weeaboos, but I've actually been to Japan with one. So this girl, let's call her Jenny, was an old high school classmate. She kept to herself most of the time and didn't really have many friends. I'd only talked to her once or twice, so I had no way of knowing she was a weeaboo, because we weren't friends. But when I started college, I found out Jenny was in some of the classes, and was a tiny bit relieved to have someone familiar there. I've never been much of an anime fan myself. The few I've actually watched and enjoyed are old anime like Sailor Moon, Revolutionary Girl Utena, Legend of the Galactic Heroes, Neon Genesis Evangelion, or Dragon Ball Z. So I never really had much to talk about with Jenny, but when we sat next to each other on the first day of college, we still hit it off pretty well. She was pretty bubbly. Sorry about that. She was pretty bubbly, funny, and legitimately seemed like a nice girl. Plus she dropped the anime tease now. Had nice hair and wore mostly pastel outfits, which I found really cute. Things went fine and dandy for a while. Up until this point, it's worth mentioning that we befriended a pretty chill guy who also went to college with us. We'll call him Josh. He was only a year older than us, drove this vintage car whose model he kept name-dropping, but I never managed to remember, and had really wacky black hair. Think Goku. So Jenny and I always joked about it being anime-styled, and it became an inside joke. We started seeing each other more often and became an inseparable trio. We hanged out at each other's houses, stayed up for hours, Skyping, playing video games together, until our eyes burnt, and tried to hold study sessions, which wound up in us not studying at all. I really loved having such cool friends, and we had a lot of fun together. So when the suggestion popped out of going to Japan a couple of weeks with them, I didn't second guess. I'd always wanted to visit Japan, and I couldn't wait to have a great time with my new best friends. Boy, was I wrong. Josh and I aren't exactly rich, so it took a while to save up for the plane tickets and for the duration of the trip itself. Jenny's family was better off, so she'd offered to pay for the hotels. I remembered her room was frilly pink and covered wall-to-wall in anime posters, shelves packed full of manga, and she owned a few Lolita dresses. Jenny did spend a lot of money on her anime manga hobbies, and often talked about anime, but didn't go overboard like most of them often do. But back then, this didn't strike me as odd or worth worrying about. I'm very organized, so I took care of the course scheduling, and of course we spent months planning the trip and dividing the costs. We planned to spend 4 days... We planned to spend 4 days and a half in Kyoto, and the rest of the trip in Tokyo. We were going to stay a week and a half. I spent all my free time doing research on what places to visit, browsing through travel blogs to find advice in low-priced hotels and places to eat. All we talked about was Japan, Japan, Japan. Back then, I overlooked the fact that out of us three, Jenny seemed to be most excited. But now I know why. We planned all the stuff we were going to buy, we booked the hotels, we saved up our money, and the previous day my mom helped me pack, and I was off to the airport the next morning. Jenny's mother picked me up at my house, and then we picked up Josh. Then the trouble started there. Apparently Jenny hadn't told her parents Josh would be coming with us, by lying and saying it was just 3 girls and not 2 girls and a guy. Jenny's mom wasn't happy at all about it. They argued about it on the car, in front of us, mind you, and it was all super uncomfortable. I was irrationally terrified that she'd turn back and we wouldn't get to go at all. But in the end, she dropped us off at the airport. And Josh and I thanked her for the ride. Jenny just slammed the door without even a goodbye kiss or a thank you. I skip all the boring airport shenanigans and get to the part where we actually land in Japan. It's been a long, long flight and we all were exhausted. We picked up our baggage at the Narita airport and took the train straight to Kyoto. Jenny was oohing and awing the whole time. She was happier than a little kid in Disneyland. She kept on taking pictures of everything, and I mean everything. Trains in Japan are very quiet, but Jenny was being loud. I mean, we got some pretty nasty looks, and I was really embarrassed. Jet lagged as hell, we arrived at the hotel at around 7 p.m. locally. Jenny looked hella disappointed when she saw that it was just a regular inn. Since we were in Kyoto, she expected a ryokan. But ryokans are expensive as hell for us. And the whole time we stayed at the hotel, she complained we weren't staying at one. But I digress. The next day we went sightseeing around Kyoto. Jenny had these cheap cat ears on and wore a really frilly outfit, despite the fact it was hot as balls that day. And it made me really embarrassed. Because she kept screaming, "Yeah!" every time we took a picture and made peace signs. She wouldn't stop comparing every shrine we visited to Inuyasha and would take pictures everywhere. Even where there were clear signs asking you not to. Basically, she was really rude and loud. But Josh and I tried to enjoy ourselves nonetheless. We went around Kyoto visiting temples, mostly for free, and take pictures. When we went to get lunch, Ginny tried to order sushi in her much broken Japanese and loudly squealed the same for "thanks for the food" before digging in. Loud enough for the entire restaurant to hear. I wanted Earth to part in two and swallow me. Every day we spent in Kyoto got worse and worse. Every place we visited, Jenny wore those cat ears, and we get in some ugly looks in the streets and shrines where she got loud, and it happened a lot. Once she tried to visit the shrine in a Kagome cosplay and wanted to get Josh and I to cosplay Inuyasha and Sango, but we insisted against it. It's very frowned upon in Japan to just walk around and cosplay. Even though there isn't an event, even if there is an event going on. And we weren't even in Tokyo. Every time we went out for lunch or dinner, she tried to order in Japanese and failed miserably, and ate sushi whenever possible. Even when we bought our dinner in a Family Mart or a 7-Eleven, she wouldn't buy anything that wasn't Japanese. Getting her to let us go to McDonald's when Josh and I got a bit sick of the food was borderline sorcery. Jenny kept on acting, talking, and eating like a Japanese girl, and all she talked about was anime, anime, anime. She wasn't the girl we met in our class at all. She was just full-blown annoying weeaboo. I tried getting souvenirs from my parents in Kyoto because I figured I'd find nice ones there. But I didn't find anything too convincing or cheap. Besides, on the day we specifically went shopping, we had the bad luck of running into an anime store, and Jenny dragged us in there for 2 hours. All she did was squeal and take pictures of the merchandise and ask us to pose for weird selfies with cardboard figurines. Josh reminded her in Akihabara that she'd find nicer merchandise there. She should probably save her money for there. For once she listened and we were free to leave. Finally. At this point, Jenny kept on whining how she was bored of shrines, museums, and temples and wanted to go shopping for Merc and Lolita dresses. Our stay in Kyoto was coming to an end, so Josh and I hoped she'd calm down once she got her anime merc from Tokyo and gave us some peace. And boy, was I wrong again. Once we were in Tokyo, all Jenny wanted to do was go to Akihabara or Harajuku, as if those were the only places worth seeing in Tokyo. We agreed to go to Akihabara with her on the first day. Big mistake. Even if the music they blast there was loud, Jenny's squealing was louder. We visited every single anime building on the main street. And Jenny probably spent all the money her parents had given her that day and well, they initialed Akiba there, so let's go with that. She bought like 5 anime figurines, a bunch of hentai joujins, a lot of manga, and entirely in Japanese since they mostly sell Japanese manga and doujins at Akiba, an anime costume, a maid outfit, and a DVD set. We also spent half an hour searching for Mandrake, the biggest anime store in Akiba, and Jenny bought more merch there regardless of price or quality. Josh and I tried to make the best out of this experience, so we bought our own share of merch. I got a small Sailor Moon Nendoroid, don't ask me, and I still keep that on the shelf in my room. And Josh got a DBZ keychain and a gashapon for those machines they keep everywhere. That was probably the most fun I had all day. We stayed in Akiba the entire afternoon, most of which was spent sitting at the end of staircases waiting for Jenny. Josh and I made jokes about the lewd doujins and manga that kept in display so openly, and I mean they were everywhere. Trying to put up with the foul scent and the atmosphere. I mean, even it tends to get crowded, and I swear to God, the kids that go there don't shower ever. And asking Jenny to please use your endo voice because that music was already deafening and alienating enough. We went back to the hotel room carrying our added weight and bags, and it took up a third of the hotel room. Akiba was already ticked off the list, so now we expect Jenny to calm the fuck down. She didn't. Now she wanted to come back there every day, and she also made us go through hell in Harajuku. We went on a Sunday, 1 p.m., which is when the crew gathered to take pictures and walk around in their outfits. Jenny borrowed my camera without my permission and took hundreds of pictures, even tried to butt in the group pictures the kids in wacky attires were taking, but they asked her to keep out of it. She got really upset and told them all that they were dumb bakas, and they ran straight into the Takashita Dori, the main fashion street in Harajuku. Josh apologized to them for Jenny's behavior, and they were nice enough to take pictures with us, though. Shopping in there with Jenny was an experience I hope I never have to live through again. The most memorable moment was finding the Bodyline store, packed full of Lolita dresses, skirts, and tops, and anime cosplays. The store was had a medium-sized sign on the doors that clearly said, "No try, no change, no return," in big, bold letters. Jenny ignored both the sign and our warnings that she would not be able to try on anything in the store, so trying to buy something here would be a waste of time. She picked 3 Lolita dresses and 2 anime costumes and ran straight to the cashier. That's when she called for us with those dreadful words. "Guys, I ran out of credit. Could you please lend me some money to pay for these things? Pretty please?" Josh and I exchanged concerned looks. Jenny had picked out a shit ton of stuff to buy, and we didn't have that much money to lend without going bankrupt. She had to return one of the dresses and the costumes, but we lent her some money for the rest. She half-assed a thank you, and we moved on. Of course, we carried half of those bags. Josh wanted to try one of the Gothic stores since he was into that stuff when he was a teen, and he kind of missed out on it. But Jenny frowned when she saw the front of the store and said, "Ew, gross, that stuff is for weirdos." I got pissed. We'd been putting up with her childish antics and carried her wheat Merc bags around for 2 days. So I told her not to be a dick and let Josh browse some stores. We hadn't come to Japan to be her servants. We came to have fun, the three of us, together. She sighed dramatically and said fine. Josh took a sweet time browsing and tried stuff on, but I knew he deserved it. Meanwhile, Jenny and I waited outside, but we couldn't even converse because she was constantly pounding and annoying my conversation starters. Eventually, I stopped trying. By the by, you can't try on any Lolita dresses in any store that I know of, save a really nice Gothic Lolita store named Botched, but this did not stop Jenny from purchasing more dresses and Angelic Pretty and Alice and the Pirates and you know, those were exorbitant prices. And with half of our money. She used up all her trip money, both in cash and credit, in 2 days. And we had to lend her money for food the rest of the trip. I was afraid I'd run out to buy presents for my own. After Harajuku and Akihabara, the following days went by uneventful. We visited other places, completely anime unrelated, visited other islands, and had a fun time. Her mood seemed to have settled down. She was acting calm and composed. At least, Josh and I thought. We both talked about how we felt regarding her true colors, and it felt good knowing that I wasn't the only one who felt that Jenny was being annoying and plain disrespectful. This did not last. Things went to shit when we visited the Ghibli Museum. I loved Miyazaki's movies since I was a little girl, and to this day I'm still a huge fangirl. The tickets to the Ghibli Museum are not sold outside of Japan. Either you gotta purchase them at a certain grocery store, or get them through a travel agency. My parents' birthday gift to me were tickets to the Studio Ghibli Museum through the agency. They'd been sent to our hotel in Tokyo, and all I had to do was pick them up. I was thrilled. A few months prior to Japan, I sat Josh through a marathon of the movies, and he loved them too. So we were both mega excited to visit the museum. I'd invite Jenny over to watch them too, but she always had an excuse. Never mind that, we went to the museum, and I swear it's the most magical place on earth. I took the most pictures there, discreetly. I mean, you're not supposed to take pictures inside the museum, but I snapped a couple. Almost got inside the cat bus playground, but it was too packed with kids, and we didn't want to look like creepers. So, we left. Josh and I got some small souvenirs, and geeked out about the movies, but I noticed Jenny was a bit off. It's worth mentioning, since Miyazaki's target audience were kids, that the museum was packed full of little kids running around and screaming. Josh loves kids. I'm not too fond of them, but I didn't mind. And Jenny just looked generally pissed. We ignored her mood for most of the visit, made her carry our bags around this time, but after we left the screening room, when they showed a cute-ass movie, she got unbearable. She started bitching about how boring this place is, and how it's full of dumb little kids, and how real anime is so much better than this. She even cussed in her broken Japanese, and demanded that we left, because she wanted to go back to Akiba. I had enough. Not only was she a spoiled brat, she was also a fucking asshole now. I confronted her right there and said something along the lines of, "What's your problem? We've done nothing but follow you wherever you wanted to go and do what you wanted to do. We haven't complained about your obsession with anime, the fact that you dragged us to wherever you wanted to go. back and forth for days, or the fact that you spent all your money on Merc and now we have to lend you the money constantly. When it's what you wanted to do, it's okay. But when it's what we wanted to do, it's boring and stupid. She just stood there without replying, and then said, "You don't get it. Neither of you do. This stupid kitty stuff is dumb and boring. Everything you guys want to do is so lame, but I put up with it because I'm a good friend." I laughed so hard. I swear I was laughing. I swear I'm laughing right now, and my mom is asking me, "What's so funny?" But moving on, I decided to reply, "Good friend? You? I thought you were our friend, but all I've seen these days is a total fucking asshole." She pushed me. She fucking pushed me, and I fell. Everyone in the room was staring at us. Josh helped me get up and asked Jenny what the fuck was wrong with her, and she just slapped him in the face and left. Once I washed my face off in the bathroom and stopped crying, I realized that my bag was gone. Jenny was holding it during the screening. I don't remember why I gave it to her in the first place. I told Josh immediately, and he proposed going back to the hotel and wait for her. I was in the mood for another fight, but he promised we'd confront her together. He's really good at making things feel better, and I thank him for it. We returned to the hotel, but she wasn't there. She wasn't even there until 9 p.m. When the door opened, we saw her loaded with bags and boxes from the Akiba shops, and with them my bag. She ignored all of our questions as she placed more piles and stacks of Merc on her side of the room, and silently gave me back my bag. I rummaged inside of it, and why I haven't realized this before, my credit card and all my money was in there. I gave her a death stare. "Jenny, where did you get the money to buy all this?" She looked at her feet and talked in a really, really low voice that I barely made out. "I'll pay you back later." It took me a moment to process what she meant. Josh repeated my question, but I just screamed. I screamed so loud, I think the entire floor, no, the entire inn heard me. I started yelling at her. This was my breaking point. I told her, "You fucking stole my credit card to buy all your weeb shit without my permission." I yelled at her for what seemed like hours. My blood was boiling even as I'm typing this. Hell, I'm reading this and I'm boiling over. Nothing could have made me angrier than this. I'd had more than enough, and I yelled at her and told her horrible things that I didn't even regret. Josh also said some stuff too, and we left the hotel room and spent the night sitting in the lobby. I cried in Josh's arms for hours. Literally. I caused such a scandal. The poor secretary at the front desk had to bring me some water and a tissue and ask me if I was okay. I was so angry, upset, anxious. Later on I realized now, I had no more money to buy presents for my parents and my sister, and it made me even more angrier because we never get to travel much. I really wanted to get something nice from Japan. Josh consoled me and lent me his phone. I called my mother in tears. I told her everything. I didn't care about Japan anymore. I just want to go home. Never talk to Jenny ever again. My mom consoled me, exchanged me a few words with Josh, who assured her that he stayed with me the whole time. And I got to talk with my dad. He was a really wise guy. Sadly, my parents made me feel a little better, but they couldn't send money my way to help with the last 3 days without going into debt. They said they'd find a way anyway. The worst part was we still had 3 more days in Japan. I had no more money to eat or even pay for an hotel room. And thinking about having to be in the same room as Jenny for 3 more days, it gave me anxiety. We finally went back to the hotel room at around 5 a.m. Jenny was asleep. I said goodnight and thanked him for everything, and I went right to sleep. I slept the entire day afterwards, so we missed a whole day of sightseeing. I have no money left to go anywhere either. In and out of dreams. Sometimes I wake up mid-afternoon and find the room empty. I saw Josh that day. He told me he lectured her. She emailed her parents asking for more money on this watch and promised she'd pay me back every cent that she used up on my credit card balance. Thank God, but it didn't ease my awful experience, or the fact that I still had to deal with Jenny for 3 more days. And a 30-hour plane ride back home. When Jenny eventually showed up at the room, things were really tense. I had nothing more left to say, but I expected an apology since she'd never once apologized for her behavior, to Josh or to me. She just sat on her bed reading manga without even acknowledging I was in the room. Josh never talked to her either, so the only conversation in the room was between the two of us. Since Jenny wasn't going to acknowledge we were there, we wouldn't either. We went out to buy dinner at the nearest grocery, but only bought stuff for ourselves. Jenny was going to have to use her own to buy food now. The next 2 days we tried to stay out of the room as much as possible. We found a small park near the hotel and just hung out until it was dark. I gotta admit, the only happy ending to this story was Josh and I started dating after we returned from Japan. So the days we spent, just the two of us together, was the only fun I managed to have that week and a half. We joked, drank beer, took weird selfies, trash-talked Jenny until our faces went blue, and cheered for no more weeaboos. It's cheesy, but it's true. Josh used up the last of his Japanese yen to buy me souvenirs for my family, and I thanked him for it even to this day. The last day in Japan, we packed our bags, and I've got to admit, seeing Jenny try to fit all the stuff she bought in the miserable amount of luggage she brought, it was hilarious. You know, had she apologized and not acted entitled, God knows what for, herself, we would have lent her the spare room in our bags. But she wound up having to pay a few for extra weight to the airport and didn't look too happy about it. When we finally landed back home, I swore I broke it down in tears. It was over. It was finally over. I ran into my mother's arms when she picked me up at the airport, and we both cried together. She thanked Josh for taking care of me and later commented on what a charming guy he seemed. Now that we're dating, she's fascinated, and he's really the coolest boyfriend I ever had. I'd never been so happy to be home in my life. It'll probably take a whole new entry trying to explain the aftermath. But to shorten the story, she never talked to us again in person. She never sat down next to us in class, and she never apologized. Half a week after Japan, she sent 2 long messages, one to me and one to Josh, basically telling us we're morons. She deserved an apology too, for the way we treated her, and that I was entitled. He was a selfish jerk, and that our attitude had been immature. She paid for the hotel, so we should be thanking her, which we already did before. In Josh's text, she even called him a baka senpai and said how she couldn't believe she had a crush on him. She was apparently jealous he was dating me instead of her, and called me a fugly baka slut. Oh, if I had the screen cap of that message, I would have sent it. We laughed out loud. and proceeded to ignore her as well. I also checked out her Tumblr, where she posted hundreds of pics of the things she bought, and posted some sob story on the Japanese experience. Made me and Josh look like bad guys. Luckily back then I didn't even have one. She couldn't hold her weep followers to send me a non-hater or whatever. She finally unfriended me on Facebook. But she unfriended me first, and sent several more paragraphs to Josh with more bullshit. Then unfriended him right after. That was real mature. For anyone who's wondering, no. She never paid me back the money she owes me. The fucking bitch. The moral of the story? Never let go of your person bumble places, and maybe don't visit Japan with weeaboos. I guess.